Welcome in. It is time for a brand new edition of ACC Baseball Etc, presented as always by our friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors, where they carry all the best gear from all the top brands, all at prices you will love. And shopping is more convenient than ever at academy.com and on the Academy app. Enjoy free shipping on orders of $25 or more with sign-in. Shop anytime, anywhere, and find their widest selection of colors, styles, and sizes. I'm Daron Vaught. It is a fun time of the year. It feels like with the Major League season ending and us sort of passing the baton on to, I start college basketball this week as we're recording this. We do have lots of college baseball to talk about, though, because it's fall ball. So with me, we've got Aaron Fitt, Bradley Smart, who have, full disclosure, seen more baseball this fall than I have. So we're going to talk autumn ball. And I refer to it that way, guys, because I take a lot of pride in ACC Baseball Etc being the show on the D1 Baseball Podcast Network. I don't know that this is a wide margin, but I believe we are the show with the most whimsy. So we universally on this program refer to it as autumn and not fall. So I'm going to need you guys to adjust. If it comes out of your mouth, I'll correct you. Fall, it's autumn ball. Okay.
I like this. I don't want Coach Rooney to hear you saying that your show has more whimsy than his show, because this could escalate. It could get ugly.
It could, competition begets competition. And we could just get all kinds of whimsical this autumn on the D1 Baseball Podcast Network as a result. So I actually kind of hope Runes hears this. But anyways, welcome. Happy autumn to you both. I trust that you're doing well. How is the baseball writing biz these days? I feel like I haven't seen either of you in a while.
Yeah, it's good. There is a lot of autumn ball to be covered.
There we go.
And I think it's such a fun time too, because you get kind of all the guys you've seen before and, are proven in a certain program. And then each year, it seems like there's more and more newcomers to account for. And so it's fun to really see, like, what did these coaches and programs do in the off season? What kind of roster do they bring into the fall? And it's cool to see that go out there and, play against each other and other programs and kind of figure out what is this team going to be in, February.
Yeah, autumn is really my favorite time of the year on the work calendar, to be honest with you, because for all the reasons Bradley said, it feels like you're kind of like you're an explorer out there, trying to get early impressions on some uncharted things, and especially nowadays with all the turnover and all the newcomers, and it's like, everywhere you go, you're having to learn so many new faces, and part of it is we're making some snap observations based on our limited looks, which can backfire sometimes or can prove to be prescient sometimes. But mostly it's helpful to just kind of get eyes on teams and players to just kind of get a feel for them, and then you combine that with your conversations with coaches, and you just have like a mental image you can draw back on, as the season progresses, and you're hearing more about these players. Like, I just find it helpful to have that basis. And so I love going around and obviously I've talked about this a lot, but every autumn going around and talking to, I'm just racking up the points right now, Coach, just traveling around and everybody's like excited in the autumn. They all want to talk about their teams. They sometimes just invite you down onto the field during the scrimmage, and it's so low key, and everybody's so happy and optimistic, and it's just hope springs eternal every autumn, Coach, and that's the bottom line.
You got two seasons in that sentence. That's good.
You like that?
Spring is the verb, but no, I get it. Okay, all right. Let's start with this. This is broad. You guys have talked to a lot of coaches, seen a lot of teams already. One at a time, give me the most interesting thing you have observed this fine autumn. And Bradley, I'll let you start.
That's a good question. I think it's got to be. I was just in Virginia 2 weeks ago. I think to watch a Virginia inner squad. And I think that team as a whole is just so interesting to me because you have Pollard and his whole staff coming over from Duke, and you have some of the big name Duke guys like, AJ Gracia and Zakowski and stuff. And then you have like a little pocket of the Virginia guys that did stay. And that includes, like an Eric Becker, superstar caliber player. And then you have all of these, whether they're really talented freshmen or kind of just transfers from all over. I think watching sort of the competitiveness and the energy in that inner squad was really interesting to me because it just felt like this is a team that, I think on the surface, it's like, oh, it's kind of from all over. Like, is it Duke identity? Is it Virginia identity? Like, what is it kind of going to be? And I thought I felt really impressed with like, okay, this is going to be a really fun team to follow. No idea how it'll pan out, depths of question, stuff like that. But I thought it was really interesting to watch that and then talk to, the coaches. And they're like, yeah, this group is really buying in. And we kind of got past that. Nobody sort of knew anyone. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, we'll circle back onto Virginia, but Aaron, go ahead.
I was just going to tack on real quick while we're talking about Virginia because Bradley's fall report in Virginia is posted today as we record this on Monday, November 3rd, and it's a banger. It's a banger fall report. Their team sounds really interesting. We can talk more about that whenever you want, but there's a lot to like about them. And the thing I found interesting about your report, Bradley, was that that Chris Pollard compares this pitching staff to the 2023 group he had at Duke, where it's, maybe it's going to be a lot of piecing it together. And it feels like Duke has kind of done that fairly regularly, but like, as Pollard pointed out in your piece, it's not necessarily like by design. It's like not necessarily their preferred way to do it. They'd love to have some horses that they can run out there for 6 or 7 innings. It makes your life easier, but you work with the personnel that you've got, and they've done that masterfully in recent years in Durham, and it sounds like they have the depth to do it again in Charlottesville this year. And certainly I think that the Zakowskis and Stamels, are going to make big jumps as sophomores, and maybe could wind up giving them those horses that they don't necessarily think that they have right now. I believe in those guys, and of course Kyle Johnson's such an X factor. So there are 3 guys who are coming in here from Duke that all I think have very intriguing upside, and I'm just curious to see how they develop as sophomores.
Yeah. And we'll stay here for a moment because if you recall in 2023, they really had to become what they became. I guess they were a version of it, but then the final blow was a Jonathan Santucci injury that took him out. Because prior to that point, he had been their ace. You could count on so many innings out of him, especially if he was particularly sharp. He would get, most of the game out of the way for you. So it sounds to me like I just think with this coaching staff, they understand that stuff is going to happen on the pitching side. And I think the way things have shaken down their years at Duke together, it feels like they're just like, yeah, we might have some guys who go longer into games, but we're not going to count on that necessarily. We're ready to be malleable and to adapt. And I think again, like they've kind of had a version of it most years in the past handful of seasons. So I think it's more an adaptation on their part than it is, I don't know, an indictment of the length that they can get out of pitchers as much. Does that make sense? Like I just think their approach has been molded in a way through those experiences that allows them to adapt when they get some injuries, or it turns out the arms that they thought could go deeper into games aren't quite as developed as they thought they would be.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to look at last year as like a case study in them adapting as needed. Like you go into last year and you have, Healy, I think Talon and Johnson in the rotation, and all 3 didn't work out for different reasons. And they just kind of move around and they bring in Owen Prosch, and he turns into that guy. And that was something Pollard mentioned. He's like, that didn't necessarily like come out of nowhere, but it's, he emerged and figured out, oh yeah, this guy can turn over a lineup multiple times. And that gave him a shot in the arm when the staff was struggling. And also allowed them to, put talent in the role where he was better as, that sort of high leverage reliever. So I think that proven flexibility, and kind of like what you were saying, it definitely suits this group of arms really well, because I think the stuff and talent that they have is immense. I think there's a lot of, not necessarily lack of experience, but, less collegiate innings or less proven collegiate innings. And I was really impressed with, I didn't even see like the big names for the most part in my look. But they had some guys like Michael Yeager, who hasn't really pitched for Virginia over 2 years, kind of battled, I think, an injury or two, and he looked great. So it's like they have the talent. It's just sort of figuring out what roles fit, what guys, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the position player group is really interesting, right? Like, I think when Pollard took that job, we expected that certain Duke guys would follow. And I don't know that we would have expected that they would hang on to the Virginia players that they did. I mean, Becker is a humongous piece, but
yes,
also on this roster is Harrison Didowick. I mean, 2 years ago, this dude probably should have been drafted. And then he comes back last year and has a down year, a dud, if you will. But like that's a guy who, if he's on, he's capable of just hauling off 20 home runs in a collegiate season. So like, that's not nothing, I don't think. And there's certainly potential there where they don't need it from him, right? I think with Virginia last year, in order for them to have success, we kind of, we marked Didowick on the fall roster. It was like, okay, he's going to be a big part of it. I don't know that the lineup needs him to produce to be a very, very good offense. So he's just kind of like lying in the weeds there. Who knows? Like, he might be their seventh hitter in the lineup and could have a really productive year.
A guy that 2 years ago, tied the school record for single season home runs, I think, or
23,
or broke it, tied or broke it. But I mean, Bradley had some more great insight on him in his fall report. I mean, this guy has continued to kind of punish fastballs, but struggled against off-speed stuff. That's the key. It's you look at the numbers, it's stark. It's 800 OPS off fastballs. It's a 500 OPS off-speed. And so this coaching staff is so smart. They're so good at, I think, addressing where their player shortcomings are and attacking those. And I just have a feeling they're going to find, not that obviously Virginia also had like one of the elite coaching staffs in the country, but sometimes you get a new set of eyes in there and just a change of scenery in a way, and it can unlock something in a guy. And so, yeah, I agree. Intriguing X factor, but I mean, gosh, the star power with obviously AJ Gracia and Eric Becker leading the way. And I mean, I'm Bradley and I both are big Sam Harris guys, and I think Antonio Parada's a really nice piece, kind of, again, like you put it, lying in the weeds, not maybe getting a ton of attention, but like, I think that guy's good. And so I think it's a really good core. And there are other pieces as well. But yes, I think this lineup, maybe, injuries could make them a little vulnerable in spots. I don't know if it's the deepest position player group, but boy, the star power is exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll move on from UVA for now, but reserve the right to circle back later. Aaron, the most interesting thing you have observed so far this autumn?
Well, I'll tell you, Coach V, the one that I had certainly high hopes for Georgia Tech, but walking away and saying, whoa, this is the best position player group I saw all fall. And it's funny, I had a text from a scout right after I left the game, like, this is the best position player group I've seen all fall. It's not even close. This is like a national guy, and it's like, yeah, okay. Like it's easy to see that this team is it's explosive, but Georgia Tech always scores runs, right? Like that's the thing. We still need to see how good will the pitching staff be. They have plenty of arms. It's hard to really judge because they're having to face their own lineup in their squads. And so it's like, it's hard to get outs against that lineup, for anybody, but like I saw plenty of stuff. I mean, I saw Tate McKee, pitch into the third inning in the scrimmage I saw, and yeah, there was some traffic, but he battled and he gave up a run, and it's, 94-96 with real life and 4 pitches. And it's like, okay, like this is Friday night stuff. Can he make the leap? I guess this is what's interesting about Georgia Tech. We know it's going to be an elite position player group. I mean, And it starts with of course the guys up the middle, right? Drew Burress, in center field is best player in the country, period. Maybe Rock Chalowski. Those are the two best players in the country. But those are the two best players in the country.
We weren't giving you any pushback either. That's the thing. Like, you paused for us, for someone to dispute that, and you disputed it yourself anyway. That's okay.
Well, we have to remember Chalowski did win our National Player of the Year award last year, so we'll give him a little bit of credit. But Vaught Lackey is so exciting behind the plate. He's just an absolute monster. James Ramsey was telling me, like, yeah, we might do the thing like they did with Buster. Remember that time Buster played all 9 positions in one game for Florida State. Lackey may play 8 positions in a game. Everything, I don't know if he's going to pitch, but everything else I think he could do just for fun at some point this season, because he's that kind of athlete. I mean, it's like explosive athlete who can really throw, can really defend behind the plate. He gets better and better every year. He was kind of a raw player out of high school and just leaps and bounds from freshman year to sophomore year. Just a neat story there, but he's awesome. I mean, he's going to be one of the very best catchers in the country. So those are 2 cornerstone pieces, and you bring in Jaron Avicula, at probably second base with Carson Curse at short, but it could go either way. That's an ongoing battle. Love both those pieces, however that plays out. So just an elite up the middle unit, tons of power on the corners. Will they pitch enough? Will they throw enough strikes? Bradley, I know you're a believer, in the pitching staff there, the coaches, the way that they are approaching things, the progress that they're making on the mound. And we'll see. I mean, will they throw enough strikes? I think if they throw enough strikes, this is an easy Omaha team.
Yeah, I feel like Ramsey put it well when I was talking to him going into the fall, where he's like, you're kind of chasing in a good way. The pitching staff is where the offense is. And I think that just closing that gap more and more each year will continue to translate to, a more balanced Georgia Tech side. Because, like, obviously last year, the way regionals went kind of reflected as, this is the same Georgia Tech staff. Because, they gave up a lot of runs. Obviously, that's a hitter's park. Ball was flying out of there all weekend. But I think the pieces they brought back and some of the kind of, steps that guys made last year, like you look at a Brady Jones getting drafted, started to fill up the zone more. You look at Jalen Payton and what he did over like big 40-something innings, kind of coming back from injury. Even a Riley Stanford, like their stuff ticks up. Now it's just sort of, can we get that, consistency across the board? And I do really like McKee. I think what we saw from him at the ACC tournament was like, okay, this is him, almost at his best there. He just kind of cruised. And yeah, the offense is ridiculous. I mean, I think I'm not full. I haven't pulled all of it yet. I'm working on sort of a returning production thing. And I'm pretty sure Georgia Tech is going to finish either first or second in percentage of plate appearances back from last year. And that's a group that obviously includes, Burris, Alex Hernandez, who's, dynamic, all those guys you were mentioning before. And then it just seems like each year they bring in more and more guys that are like, oh, okay. Like Coleman Lewis, I think has sort of popped this fall for them. That's a freshman. So there's just a lot of offensive talent. And again, I'm reminded of what Ramsey said, where it's like, got to kind of try to find a way to keep everyone happy because we have, just a ton of offensive talent.
Guys like Ken Schmidt were kind of, again, like a little bit overlooked, but like a good, productive play. Led the league in hitting last year, didn't he? I think.
If he qualified, yeah.
If he qualified, like that was kind of it was like right down to the wire. Will he qualify? I think he did. But just a good left-handed hitter who just produces. I think Will Baker is a guy to keep an eye on for me. I liked him on the Cape. He probably fits best at second base, but on this team, I don't know that he's going to play there over the guys that they have in the middle, but maybe put him on a corner outfield or DH or just move him around wherever. But like, that's an emerging left-handed hitter that I like. So they've got a lot of guys like that. They're just like really nice supporting pieces. I mean, Ryan Zuckerman, they feel like they've figured something out with his swing and miss, the Pitt transfer, big bodied guy who moves better than you think at third base. I think this team's going to play defense too. I know, David Seifert came in after me and didn't get as good a look on their defense. They were kicking it around some, but I like their personnel defensively. We talked about the up the middle group. I mean, that's an elite defensive up the middle group, and so I think they're plenty good enough on the corners too. I think they're going to be exceptional really in every way on the position player side. I think they can certainly mash. I think they can run, and I think they can defend.
Yeah, it feels like I'm coming off of a dud of a fantasy football weekend, so forgive the analogy here, guys. I have had little faith in the Carolina Panthers, especially defensively, right? So I've been rocking Daniel Jones and Jordan Love at quarterback. And Danny Dimes has been really, really good this season. But I was like, you know what, Jordan Love, a couple years ago, you were a top 5 fantasy quarterback. You're against Carolina this week. I'm going to throw you in there, right? I tinkered too much is the moral of the story. And if something was to go awry, and maybe that's dramatic for Georgia Tech, if there is a problem with the position player group, it is who do we play when and where? Because, again, you guys just laid out a ton of names, and as you're starting to sort of plot out where guys go, some are obvious and are immovable, right? You mentioned Von Lackey, Drew Burress, of course. But is Zuckerman going to be able to play a lot of third base? Because there are other guys who can do it on the roster. You mentioned Baker and the possibilities at second, but it's going to be really interesting to see how they work opportunities in for certain players. And again, we're assumedly going to have some positional battles. So it'll be interesting in and of itself to see, okay, who's one on the list and who's 1B or however they denote it.
Which is always an interesting challenge for a loaded team is how do you keep everybody happy, and it's a nice luxury to have, but also, it's good when you've got like a Drew Rogers who can handle the duties behind the plate and so you don't wear Lackey out. I really think that's a position behind the plate where it's really nice to have a good second guy, and they do. I think Drew Rogers is really good. So that's another strength for this position player group. Just really like them. So yeah, that one's exciting. And the arms, again, we'll see. There's a lot of arm strength. Keep an eye on Justin Shattuck. The Rutgers transfer. I mean, he was up to 99 for me. He was 95, 99, which I think is just kind of what he's been. That long kind of 3/4 arm swing. I think he threw like 5 different pitches. Cutter, curveball, sweeper, slider. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. So maybe we got to kind of drill down on that repertoire and see what really works for him. But from what I understood, he only gave up 6 hits this fall, but they were all home runs. So I don't know what you make of that. But it's a very exciting talent. That's one to circle on your sheet. And Parker Bergman as well, up to 99. I don't know if I'm saying that name right, but that's another exciting arm. So there's plenty of arm talent here. It's just a matter of figuring out which guys they can really trust. I think that's what will determine just how good they can be. I think if the pitching lives up to the raw talent, this team can win it all. I think they're that good.
Love it. Okay, so we've talked through a couple of teams who we have high hopes for, I think, with their offenses especially. My next question, and I've got some more specifics, but we're going to you stated what you've seen already that is the most interesting to you. For each of you, what are you most interested to observe moving forward this autumn or maybe carrying over into the preseason?
Go ahead, Coach Bradley.
That's a good question. My ACC fall trips are wrapped up, but I think one. I know, Aaron, you've seen them. I'm just really interested to see how Duke sorts itself out, because that is, just I forget the exact number. I think it's like over 30 newcomers on their fall roster.
Moose said when he was on here that he had 8 or 9 players, something like that, when he took the job. And they ended up with, I think, 43 after the portal window closed, which was he got the job and it was closing. It was actively closing. So yeah, it was a scramble to say the least. And it's 30 plus.
35 total new players. Yes. 27 transferred, 8 freshmen.
Jeez. Yeah. So anytime you have that much turnover, I think it's 6% of innings and then 1 regular in Albright back, that's a lot to ask. And it's obviously it's year 1 for a new coach. So it's not expectations are going to be unrealistic at all. But I think seeing who wins what jobs, how they kind of progress, if someone kind of emerges, under the radar, I think that's definitely something I'm really interested to follow.
They're going to be, I think, fun to watch because, he's, Moose. It's a big personality. I think he's a really, really intelligent motivator, but he's kind of like leaning into this. Hey, you guys are the island of misfit toys. Certainly nobody believes in you. Like it's, let's just go out there and freaking play with a ton of energy. That's like obviously that's his number one thing. Let's play fast. Let's play with energy. And we're not going to probably out talent most people in the ACC, but like, let's just go out there and outplay them and win. That's it. And that's not to say there isn't talent here. There are some pieces I really like on this Duke team. I mean, first and foremost is Cider Cannon, the transfer they got from Davidson. Played mostly outfield, I think, at Davidson.
A very autumnal name. As a matter of fact, it sounds like a North Carolina State Fair attraction more than it sounds like a college baseball player.
Autumnal is well said. I don't like references to North Carolina State Fair. Makes my skin crawl. Don't want to think about the North Carolina State Fair. So -2 for you on that one. But he's a guy.
That's fine. You keep your own score. It's fine.
Dispute.
Yeah, this guy can mash, guys. I mean, it's a real bat. Right-handed hitter with power, with hitability. I saw him show all of those things in the UNC Wilmington scrimmage, but also he's going to catch. He's going to be their number one catcher. He caught some in high school, but didn't catch, I think, his first 2 years at Davidson. And so if he shows everybody that he's a real catcher, like he could be like maybe a day one draft, because I think it's that kind of bat. He's an athletic guy back there. Just explosive bat speed, but Moose does like what he's seeing from him defensively. I mean, he can throw some, he can receive, and there's always things you can polish, of course. You're fairly new to the position, but obviously that's Corey Muscara is someone who's very critical of catchers, and he likes what he's seeing. So keep an eye on that. And then, gosh, I love the guy that they got from Xavier, Jake Lambden. Absolutely, like he's almost already a slam dunk all fit guy. He's just awesome. It's like a 5'11" kind of stocky dirtbag guy who's just like super high energy. I think he really hits. Like it's a good line drive swing with feel for the barrel, and controls the zone, and just a lot of really competitive at bats. But also, gosh, is he fun to watch play defense. I mean, and they were telling me before the scrimmage about how good he is, and then I got to see it myself, and it was wow. I mean, the hands, the feet, the instincts. I mean, he made a play. He didn't get the out, but this was just a jaw-dropping play. There was like a slow chopper up the middle, and the shortstop and second baseman are both going for it. And the second baseman just like ducks. He just ducks straight down. It's like yours. And so Lambden, it's short. He's coming in there. He leaps up, bare hands the ball, jumps over the ducking teammate, and throws to first all in one motion, and like nearly gets the guy. It was like nobody makes that kind of play. It was amazing. So anyway, fun player. So those are my two kind of favorite guys from Duke. I don't know if they've got enough pitching. Well, they have a lot of arms. It's going to be, you talk about the 2023 staff. This one will probably have even less length in the rotation. It's going to be a lot of mix and match. I mean, openers galore. They're asking a lot of Aiden Weaver. He's clearly their number one arm. Certainly he's got the stuff. He's always been, high 90s guy. I mean, and he was 95, 97 for me against Wilmington. Does look like he's improved the slider a little bit. It's like a short bullet spinner. It's not like a knockout slider, but it's a pitch that he should be able to land and get hopefully off the barrel a little bit. And the changeup is the best secondary pitch. They're working with him on some other things, but he's teased you for a while now. And, to this point, he's always had the stuff and has not had the results. And now he's your guy. He's your ace. And so that's huge for them, is just, can he put it all together this year? He's got the ability, and we'll see. And after that, it's, there's some other pretty good arms, but it's a lot of just kind of different looks. And we'll just see. We'll see if they've got enough firepower on the mound against all these ridiculous ACC lineups. That's my question mark with them, but they're going to play hard.
Love it. That's a lot of good stuff. And that was Bradley's answer to the question. So, Aaron, what is the thing you are most interested to observe throughout the rest of autumn and entering the preseason?
Well, I think most of the ACC teams are pretty much done with fall ball at this point, if I'm not mistaken. I'm really interested to see how the West Coast wing bounces back. Can they bounce back in year 2 now that they're getting settled a little bit? I mean,
who saw Stanford? I assume neither of you guys did that.
Yeah, Eric Sorensen, I believe. I think he already saw them. And Coach Rooney was doing the Cal report as well. So, those two teams finished. Stanford was 11-19 this year in the league. Cal was 9-21. I think there's some reason for optimism on both. But Bradley, you've spoken with their coaches. I'm curious what impressions you got about these rosters. Like, how much improvement can we realistically expect here in year 2?
Yeah, I think Stanford's the one that I'm more, bullish on. And again, it's kind of a similar conversation to what we had last year, where it's like, okay, they're bringing back a lot. They should be better, and they got off to a great start, and then just this things fell apart in a pretty major way. But I do really like the position player group in particular. I mean, you had some freshmen that dealt with injuries and were still able to, contribute. Like Tatum Marsh is a star. And Charlie Bates only played 25 games last year. And that's another really impact bat.
What? And he's a shortstop, and most of those were in the outfield.
Yeah.
Right. So, have we actually seen Charlie Bates yet in his truest form?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think Jimmy Nadai coming back is a huge win for them. I mean, that's a guy that got, undrafted free agent offers, chose to come back to Stanford. And then you kind of project Rintaro year 2, what does that look like? And so offensively, I'm pretty, confident in this group. I think the big question is the pitching staff was not good last year. It had moments, the bullpen started really well, but the rotation never really kicked into gear. Obviously the two big departures are Volchko and Scott to, Georgia. But I think they bring back a lot of arms, and I really like their incoming class. So I'm definitely high on Stanford. I think the sort of message out of it was, they expected a bad sort of after the 3 Omaha runs. They lost, I think 9 or 10, 9 to the draft and Brady Montgomery, obviously. So they expected a down kind of turn, but I don't think they expected last year going the way it went. And so I think there's kind of a hope that, okay, we still we improved some from the year before. We should kind of be back to what we usually are this year. And then I think Cal's a really interesting one, where they have a lot of guys back on the mound that I think will really help them, because they put them in tough spots as underclassmen. And I think the message out of Cal's, it's an optimistic one, where it's, we had a lot of turnover going into last year. We kind of obviously had tough times in the ACC, but we showed some life at the end. We have some pieces to build on. I think the big thing with them, though, that stinks in this age of portal and transfers and stuff, is you look at the guys that were big for them: Advincula, PJ Mudarazides at short, and Dom Smaldino. Those are real pieces that would have all been back, and now they're either Georgia Tech in Advincula's case, and the other two went to Arizona State. So it's if they had brought those guys back, and you pair that with the Eddie, the Foley, the De La Torre, that's a group I'm much more confident on. Now they have to find answers offensively. But I do think they'll pitch at a higher level this year. I just worry about the offensive side of things and where they sort of find that offense and that top of the lineup production from.
I do like that core group of the mound. You mentioned Oliver De La Torre and Ethan Foley and Gavin Eddy, now all guys that have some experience coming back, right? That you feel like you can probably trust those guys. And we'll kind of see how the depth of the staff develops around them, and kind of the same in the lineup, right? I mean, you've got a couple of nice, I think, cornerstone pieces to build around with Carl Schmidt and Cade Campbell, who it sounds like is going to move to shortstop this year from third base. And he's a good athlete. I'm excited to see him play that position. But kind of the supporting cast, I don't know enough yet. That's something that you asked what I want to see. I want to see the guys on that roster in particular that I'm just not that familiar with. I want to see how they do. You know, how good can this team be will depend upon how good these guys are that we don't really know yet. And that's just kind of the reality of college baseball and college sports in general. You know, I mean, it's funny, like college basketball season is getting underway now, and look at some of these rosters and like, gosh, I don't know anybody on this North Carolina team that, they're playing their home opener tonight. I'm like, there's like one name I recognize, and it's like, it's only 11 guys on the roster. It's not like you got to learn 35, and there's just like almost nobody familiar coming back. It's just college sports now. So it does make it interesting every year to try to get a feel for these teams.
Yeah. And then the one last note on Cal, I'd be remiss not to mention him. All ACC Jacob French is back. That's a big piece in the lineup. I mean, he kind of came out of, D2 ranks, hits 390 his first year. So I think him and that core you mentioned, Campbell and Schmidt, like those three are going to have to be really good at the top of the lineup and sort of fill it out from there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good start to putting together a lineup. And I would put interest in the West Coast teams pretty high on my personal list. I just think in order, like the ACC as a league needs them to not be among the bottom teams in the conference, right? As they were in the first year. And again, I think it's an aberration. I think it's just kind of coincidence that's how it turned out, because both of these programs typically churn out pretty quality teams. So I think like any, they'll probably have their ups and downs. They just happen to experience the downs first. And at the risk of sounding like, the Rentaro guy, I think he's potentially a really, really big breakout candidate. We talked all last year about the importance of him being there a year early to adjust to the life stuff, not just really the baseball stuff. He had some extended time to adjust. You just tack on another year of that and a better understanding of what you're going to see on a day-to-day basis in the ACC. Like, look, this dude hit the most home runs in high school history in Japan. Like, it's not like it just wasn't there. It's not like we sold you a bill of goods. Like he's a capable player. So I'm interested to see if it comes together for him and for the rest of the team. You mentioned Jimmy Natai. That's a player I love. So I'd like to see them have a better year. And I think we did this thing with Stanford last year going into the year where we said, man, they returned like 98% of their innings from the year before. And I think we kind of overlooked the part that they just like weren't that good of a team the year before, right? We saw it as a good thing where it potentially could have been a not so good thing. I think it'll be healthy for them to not bring back quite that much from their pitching staff on a year-to-year basis. So we'll see.
Yeah, well said. I think there's a lot of, if you want to go more lightning round here, so we can touch on some more teams. But I think there's a lot of teams in this league that look like they're going to be really good again, and I just think it's going to be hard for some of the teams lower down to really make a lot of headway. When I mean, we've already talked about some of the teams we really like, but like we haven't talked about Florida State and North Carolina and NC State and Louisville and Clemson and Wake Forest and all these teams that I think I have a high degree of confidence are going to be like host caliber clubs. And I'll throw out Louisville here for discussion if you guys want, because this was another team
that's where I was going to lead you next. So go ahead.
They really impressed me. Just in my fall visit there, saw a couple of 18 inning scrimmages. And I think, we talk about cores that kind of the who's got a better core. I guess maybe you can make an argument for Georgia Tech. I don't know. There's a handful of teams in the discussion, but like the four top players in this lineup, Lucas Moore, I mean, All-American, who had 50 plus steals and on base machine and all that stuff. Plays good center field. Alex Alicea, just a proven winner, shortstop, switch hitter with feel for the barrel. Zion Rose, just absolutely electric power speed player in left field, and then take Davis at first base. One of the top, I think, left-handed power hitters in the country. And by the way, probably also going to make a big impact on the mound this year. That was one of the more eye-opening things I saw in person this fall, was him rolling out there and looking the part as this big old, low slot lefty with kind of turbo sink at 93, 94 and a wipeout like sweeping slider. As like it looked like a real pitcher's operation. It didn't look like a position player trying to pitch. I would be shocked if this guy isn't like and they've had a lot of success, obviously, with 2A guys over the course of their tenure there with Dan McDonnell and Roger Williams, that staff. They know how to handle those guys. I would expect him to be groomed for a pretty prominent role, probably in the bullpen there this year. So that was intriguing. I mean, but beyond that, I mean, it's like you got super speed at the top, those first 3 guys, and you just got kind of power all the way through, starting with Rose and Davis. But, I mean, Ben Slanker, the kid that they brought in from the MAC, second year in a row, they bring in like a right fielder from the MAC who hit 18, 20 home runs last year. That's a nice power piece. You got Jimmy Nugent, the catcher, who's got some juice. You got Kate Elam, the true freshman who everyone thinks is kind of going to be a superstar. At second base, really exciting right-handed hitter who's got pop. So all the way through, there's guys that can hurt you. There's a lot of length in the lineup, and I do like the experience that they've got back on the mound. Led by Ethan Eberle and Peter Michael, and plenty of depth and variety. So maybe it's not like as much wipeout stuff on the mound as some other staffs have, but I think it's quality experience, guys that you feel like you could trust.
Yeah. I think the big thing too on the mound for them is sort of out of necessity last year with injuries. They had to throw a ton of freshmen and like a ton of underclassmen. So you had obviously Eberle was the headliner, gets into the weekend rotation, big part of why they make it to Omaha. But then, you have like guys like Schweitzer and Jack Brown and even like, Ty Starks, a sophomore, had a big role. And so I think those guys all coming back is huge as well, where it's just like, okay, they've been through the fire. They've come into games in, regionals, supers, College World Series. Like they're not going to be as phased as they might have been, that I think there was the Clemson series was like a big test for that group as well. So I think, Louisville, I love that team. I also think it's the overall like chip on the shoulder persona they have is fun to me. I mean, they finished 10th in the conference last year. Like that was why they were partially overlooked going into the NCAA tournament. But I think, Dan McDonnell really does a good job in feeding that and maintaining it whenever possible. And I think that, that quartet at the top, I obviously love Lucas Moore. I profiled him last year, and I think it's just a fascinating story. Him 430 on base. Alice's was higher. I think it was like 440. So it's a fun group. And definitely tough when you're starting to think about, okay, who's the, preseason favorite in the ACC.
Rather than a favorite, maybe this is a fun exercise. Maybe it's not, because it turns out to be too expansive. Off the top of your head, and maybe in no particular order, but if you can figure it out. What teams in the ACC strike you at this point, with obviously a long way to go before we even get the season rolling? What teams strike you as Omaha capable, which is a term that we've used on this show many a time? Omaha capable teams from the ACC.
We've talked about a couple already. I think Georgia Tech and Louisville, which for me, those feel like, I don't know, maybe the co-favorites in the league. I don't know. They're different clubs, but like they're both very, very exciting. I think NC State's pitching gives them a high floor. Talk about Omaha capable. Again, we like to talk about these cores, the core of 5 arms that they have to build around, with Marone, the lefty, and Heath Andrews, the righty, the two both returning starters in the weekend. And then you bring probably Jacob Duden into the rotation, a guy that I think can make that transition pretty well. Joe Haley has some great stuff about how that's going, how they're kind of working on trying to get him a little more efficient, pitch to contact a bit more, working with a 2-seamer and a changeup to go along with that 4-seamer and slider. And, that's a nice piece. And then of course you've got Anderson, Nance and Cooper Consiglio, who's just way better than the numbers last year showed you. Love that group of 5 arms, and they're going to hit enough. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the lead offense, but I do like, again, they're kind of main building blocks there with Ty Head and Frazeman and Chris McHugh, 3 really good pieces, and they've done a nice job reinforcing around those guys. So I like them a lot, and I like North Carolina a lot too. Again, with the pitching primarily, is what excites you about them. With Jason DeCaro leading the way now, and but boy, there's a lot of talent back there as well on the mound. I mean, Folger Boaz, I think, is kind of better than ever. He's battled some injury stuff, but people forget he was their Friday guy as a freshman coming out of the chute before he got hurt. And then you've got Ryan Lynch. I mean, sign me up for that potential weekend rotation. Very exciting. You've got a proven back end guy with Walker McDuffie, and you've got another proven back end guy in Matty Mateus coming back off injury. So, and lots of experienced returnees around them. Like in their case, they've got their core 5 arms. And it's not so much like we have to sprinkle in all these newer guys. It's like we have a lot of newer guys back that are experienced, whether it's a Cameron Padgett or a Cam Seagraves or a Olin Johnson or Tom Chmielewski. I mean, it's like all these guys that have been there, Boston Flannery, Kyle Percival, like they've all been there. They've all flashed talent, and we'll see, some of them have nice track records. Some of them need to prove it more, but they've all been in the program for a while. And, that gives them a kind of a nice luxury of a very seasoned, experienced pitching staff.
Yeah. North Carolina is such an interesting one to me. Just when you look at, like, last year I think they had 5 or 6 guys that started every single game in the field. And, you lose Kepley, Stevenson, Stokely, Madera. Like, you lose a lot offensively. Mm-hmm. Obviously Gavin Gallagher is the big name back. But I think that'll be one to follow, like who wins what jobs. What does that lineup look like? Because that lineup turned out great, obviously, but there was a lot of criticism at the start of last year where it was like, oh, they've gone 8 games and haven't homered yet. And it's like, what is the criticism maybe going to be next year?
Guilty. I was as down as I've ever been on a lineup, probably right around that time. Yeah. But
yeah, it happens. I think the other team that, I don't want to say could be overlooked a bit I think it is Wake Forest.
Yeah. Just
because they've kind of had some bumpy years, relatively speaking, since that Omaha trip. And I think with them, on the mound, you bring back Morningstar, who's a legit ace. You add an All-American in Cam Bagwell from UNC Wilmington. You bring back Matthew Dallas. You bring back, some freshmen that were hurt or slow to, get out there and like a Chris Lavonis or a Duncan Marston, guys that are incredibly talented and passed up draft money and have a lot of potential. And then you bring back a ton offensively. Like, obviously Merrick Houston's a big loss. So is Jack Winay and Matt Scannell, but Cade Lewis was, a revelation last year. And then that underclassmen group, the Dalton Wentz, Austin Hawk, he's older, but Luke Costello, Javar Wint, like there's a lot of talent, and that team's going to hit. It always will hit. And I think the big thing with Tom Walter was it was just like, we have arm talent. We were not consistent at all last year. Like, that is a big point of emphasis. We did not throw enough strikes. We did not execute. And it's a new pitching coach from the pro ranks with Moose moving on. So I think if that kind of the arm talent again is there, and it's kind of like Georgia Tech, where it's like if they can pitch at a higher level, they'll be in really good shape. Because I do like that group of returnees.
Yeah. I think their starting point with the pitching is a bit better than Georgia Tech's, whereas maybe the lineup is slightly below it. But I see what you're saying. I've got potentially a hot take here, and we'll see. There's lots of time before our preseason extravaganza where we make official picks. I think Cade Lewis could win ACC Player of the Year. Yeah. And I know it's so difficult to not pick Drew Burress in that category. He's one of the best barrel to ball guys I've ever seen. I think another year of development is truly scary for pitchers who plan on on actually pitching to Cade Lewis. And if he's not the only bat in the lineup, which, as you just alluded to, Bradley, he's definitely not going to be, he's going to see some pitches. And I just think he's potentially going to have a humongous year.
Yeah, I mean, the guy transferred in and hit 380 with like a 480 on base percentage in his first, ACC year. So I think that's a reasonable take. One other team I did want to throw in there is Miami. They got hot at the right time after briefly not kind of at the end of the year, but that's a team bringing back, obviously Cuvée is in the mix for, player of the year in the conference. If he just kind of picks up where he left off and skips that slow start. And then getting Ogden back up the middle is really big. And Galvin, a healthy Derek Williams, you pair that with AJ Siskar as an ace. And you have some other interesting pieces. And I think they did really well in the portal. I think Sosa, West, Sheehan from USC Upstate, there's some good pieces there. I think how they address, last year, the big thing with them was they made the rotation move, pushed Walters to the bullpen, and we're basically, okay, Griffin Hughes, throw as many innings as you can, and then we'll lean on 2 freshmen. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle not having Hughes, and if Siskar can kind of be that, workhorse at the top and follow from there. But offensively, they're going to hit. That is a lot of good, proven D1 bats stacked in a row, and that can really carry you.
Yeah, interesting. Another team that feels like they're flying a little bit under the radar, considering they were in a super regional last year, But again, it's a little bit like Louisville, where they really made their run there in the postseason that was better than their regular season. But yeah, I think Bradley makes a great point. There's a lot of interesting stuff back there. And I mean, and there's Clemson too. It's easy to just almost take Clemson for granted. It feels like they're just gonna, no matter what, what happens year in and year out, they're gonna go out there and win their 40 games and contend near the top of the league. They need to go over the hump in the postseason. We've talked about that plenty. We don't have to rehash that, but they're going to be Clemson again. I mean, there's a lot of excuse me. There's a lot of, that was an ill-timed sneeze. There's a lot of winning pieces back there. With Jaron Purify and Luke Gaffney, of course, kind of leading the way, and just familiar names, Jacob Jarrell and Tristan McClatty. And, I like some of the new guys that they'll slide in here. Nate Savoy from LMU and Ty Daly from Mercer. Those guys might wind up being middle of the order run producers for them, and you bring in Tyler Lichtenberger from App State, who had a really good freshman year last year. So hopefully solidify the shortstop spot for him. So, well, it's kind of still a wait and see for me on Clemson. Will they be an Omaha team? Are they Omaha capable? Certainly. It seems like they always are. But I feel like I walk away being okay, it's another solid Clemson team. I don't walk away be like, oh wow. Walk away from Georgia Tech, be like, wow. Louisville didn't really get the wow factor from Clemson, but I feel like that's nothing new. I feel like I have a history of maybe underappreciating their roster in the fall. But then they go out and they win. They just win every year.
We also, I feel like on this show in particular, have a habit of doing that with Florida State. And I've multiple times in a couple of years span, which feels like a lot for what this is, I'll have to finish a show and just be like, hey, I know we didn't talk about Florida State. We know they're good. What's your wow factor on FSU at this point?
I didn't see them this fall, Bradley. Obviously, we know they have some star power back, but I mean, what was your vibe based on your conversation with Link Jarrett?
Yeah, it feels like the big question for them going in to this year is 11 draft picks. That is a program record. I think it matched Arkansas. And the thing with Link Jarrett and that staff though is if you look back to what they had to replace. The Cam Smith year, they lost a ton of middle of the order guys, and they ended up with a lineup that just produced. Obviously, Harrelson, Lodis, Farrow, Williams, that is a lot offensively to replace. But I think Miles Bailey's a superstar. We all saw what he could do as a freshman. And I think Cal Fisher's a really good piece. Hunter Carnes, good piece. I I think it's I wouldn't say wait and see with them, because like I know they have talent, and Link Jarrett's has proven as they come at putting the right pieces together. But I think it'll be really interesting to follow what they do on the mound, because obviously Vellini and Arnold are gone. You bring in Trey Beard, a really good piece, and some other options. But I think the big thing to follow is what their bullpen looks like, because that was kind of the one sort of up and down part of their roster last year. And I think they addressed that in the portal. Obviously they grabbed Nard. They brought in some other, like Cole Stokes from Oregon and stuff. But I think with them, they're going to be good. I don't think, I think it's a lot to replace. But I think it's really just who ends up where again in that lineup, and how does it kind of take shape before we make too many judgments. But I wouldn't bet against them at this point.
I'm interested in over under 0.5 550-foot home runs for Miles Bailey.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to take the over.
It's just such an it's really, it's easy to throw around these names, but I mean, it's like an Aaron Judge type physical presence and just raw strength. That's, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And Hunter, I'm looking for a big sophomore year from Hunter Carnes. I think that's like another guy that came in with a lot of fanfare, had a solid freshman year, but I think can take a big jump as a sophomore. So, and I like what they did really in the portal quite a bit. I don't remember where we ranked their portal class. I know we were high on it. Of course, Trey Beard being like the biggest name, but like a lot of nice supporting pieces there. I mean, you mentioned Cole Stokes, Bryson Moore from Virginia, I think will certainly help them a lot. And then I think Braden Dowd is interesting, another USC guy along with Brody Purcell. Dowd could kind of that left-handed, bat to ball skill guy that has some athleticism, and Eli Putnam's an interesting piece from Davidson. I feel like there's always some good Davidson guys running around the ACC. Just they don't no grad school in Davidson, so a lot of times you get those like older players come in, but he's interesting. I mean, he's got some offensive upside in a 6'4" frame. So yeah, Florida State, good club. I think they're going to be Omaha capable as well, Coach V.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing 8 of 8 College World Series teams from the ACC next year. Appreciate you guys spelling it out that specific way for us today. Hey, happy autumn. Glad to see you guys. Glad to chop it up and talk like an hour of baseball. That was fantastic. So appreciate you guys. More fall reports are in the hopper. They're coming. Autumn reports. The official name is fall reports, so I think we're going to let that slide.
What if we rebrand it to autumn reports?
We should. We should get KR on the horn right now. Let's go.
Listen, I'm in charge. I'm making the executive decision. We're going autumn reports.
Get the new graphics made.
That's right.
Let's get new graphics for that. The autumn reports are coming like daily and in multiples. It is awesome. So we've got a couple from each of these gentlemen regarding ACC teams, plenty more outside of the ACC, of course, lots to come. So certainly if you let your subscription go dormant this time of year, fire it back up. This is necessary info, bangers galore in the autumn reports. Aaron Fitt, Bradley Smart, thanks for hopping on, and we'll see you, if not sooner, to talk about the preseason and make picks and get some stuff out there that we can get called out for months later for being ridiculous.
Hey, Coach V, thanks again for having us on your program, and thanks for everything you do for the game. I appreciate you.
Of course. Hey, we'll see you guys later this autumn.